We're going to be really loud. First of all, we need to thank the people who helped make this, and that's the Lions Club, and it's Peter Fruin. When I was walking up the path today, we've been here almost 30 years. I remember when we first started doing readings here, and we'd get here really early because we'd set up all the chairs, do the refreshments, and then we would take all the chairs down and we would mop the floors. That was BPF, before Peter Fruin. We're now in the era of after Peter Fruin, or APF, but we're so grateful, Peter and Jay. Jay worked so hard, and I have to give you some instructions. We will move a few chairs around the food table, but please leave all the other chairs in place, because there are several events happening this week, and if the chairs are up now, that's a good thing. They stay that way. So we thank the Lions Club, and then we need to thank Lori Vosters. There was a lovely ceremony here yesterday, and Lori left us the flowers, and it's just made the room so beautiful. And then we have to thank Linda. She got up early this morning and helped make all those little sandwiches. I'm just going to say a couple of things about the book. I think it's an amazingly wonderful book. For the last 2 years, I've been thinking a lot about Protection Island and what Protection Island is about. And it's not easy to articulate, but this book really helps us to understand. It is about gardens, and it's about the wonderful gardens who lived on the island, and it's about mentoring, it's about being mentored, it's about a place where you can find your path and work through what you want to do most in life. So I think that you've given us a really good gift, Jane. Thank you. And then many of you have the book, so let me tell you, my favorite part is about Stuart Murray and his dream. Okay, and now we've got this dynamo. It's interesting to put these two people together. Because what do you get? You know, Valley, like if you woke up this morning, you probably read about the recycling because she's got all of that stuff organized. Valley produces wonderful musical shows. It's very special to sit in her garden. She's a writer, both, she's done a lot of books. I brought this one, and if you have a few minutes and you haven't seen it, you should look at it. It's just a wonderful production that Valley put together. She's a fundraiser beyond belief, and not only does Valley fundraise, but she cares for the people that she's been working with. This Syrian family is so blessed to have her do all of the things that she and her family have done. And so I'm going to present Valley Hill.
I cannot believe how much Thora and I are thinking the same thoughts this morning. You almost stole my whole introduction, Thora. And how Jane and I pretty much thought the same thoughts through this whole process. We did not know each other well at the beginning, and the greatest gift for me is I now have a friend who I really know because we've spent a year together sitting, working with her words, creating this book. And it's funny, I keep looking at the cover and thinking, we never even had to decide that this was the cover. We just saw this picture and went, well, that's the cover. I have never had a project where you didn't bicker forever about what should the cover be? No question that this captures Jane exactly. So coming here this morning, I was dropping Rick off at the museum at noon, and I was thinking, I love this island. I just love this island. I've been here 20 years, and everywhere I went, I saw little collections of golf carts. There was one at Corey and Wendy's. I imagine they were planning the Gay Pride event. There was another one, might have been the hooligans. There were people in the community garden all gathered together doing something. And people walking with their dogs and walking with their families. And I thought, the things I love about protection are its tranquility, its vitality, its generosity. I mean, you talk about fundraising, you people raised the money, I simply asked, and community. And when I first moved here 20 years ago with Rick, there were a lot of elders on the island. Many of them are gone now. They moved away, they passed away. So grateful that Thora is with us and so vital and leading our way. And if you wait long enough, you become an elder. So suddenly, at 70, I'm thinking, holy moly, like a lot of the people, Carol Matthews, who when first I came to the island, Thora and Carol were such shining lights to me. And Carol was the one who said to me, hey, Jane's written a book. And Louise said, hey, Jane's written a book. And Thora said, hey, Jane's written a book. And eventually, Jane said, I've written a book. And brought it to me and said, would you just read it? And one thing I realized is we are not such a great community by chance. In the 20 years I've been here, I've seen so many changes. This beautiful room we're in is completely unrecognizable as the place I first saw. And that is because of the efforts of so many people. The Gay Pride event, the museum, the tennis courts, Nitwits, open mic night, all of them 20 years ago were not recognizable. So how did they get here? And it's because of so many people's generosity and commitment to make the place we live a better place. And so we have an event like this and we all show up because that's just who we are. Jane's book speaks to all of this. She's been on protection since before literally there was water. Seriously, before we had city water, Jane lived here. Before we had electricity, Jane lived here. Before golf carts were legal. And she tells this story with such incredible generosity of spirit, and it really is the story of this island through the eyes of the gardens here, which means the elders who turned this rock, tilled it to become soil, because all of our gardens, we had to make the soil. I didn't even realize this, because I moved into a garden that was 25 years old. And even then, my vegetable garden was just hard dirt when I got there, and I had to build the soil. Jane tells us how to build soil. She tells us how she learned to dig a hole. And from the eyes of the mentors who mentored her. So it's a beautiful memorial to the people who long before us, made this island what it is. And I stayed with this project because I fell in love with it, because it made me love and understand our island more. And I am so happy to be able to celebrate this day, because honestly, we had no idea what it would look like, feel like, and to actually hold it in our hands, it's like having a baby. So please welcome our own Jane Chester.
Well, this is only slightly overwhelming. And I may, I'm a little bit emotional today. I'm not sure what that is, but so just bear with me. It'll all be good, and it is. So, right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'll talk loud. I'm not sure about that. Okay, just have to gather myself here. I'm so grateful for you all coming today. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Oh yeah, I gotta put them on my head. Okay, first of all, I'm just gonna tell you a little blurb about how this book actually came to be. And I wrote down some of it because I'm not very good at speaking to a lot of people. So first off, again, thank you all for being here, joining me to launch this Garden Glimpses book. It's quite beautiful, this little book, I have to say. I had no idea what it would look like. And it's been such a collaboration of people that it's been such a joy to watch it unfold. And to be part of it. But I don't feel like I'm the whole part of it. It's just, yeah, there's a few people contained within this book. So in my mind, they all contribute. So, held within these pages of the book are glimpses of my life, of a small island many of us call home, and of the lives of a few people I've had the honor of getting to know through working in their gardens. Oh, and glimpses of a few gardening tips I've learned along the way. Nothing too in-depth, because then it would have been this thick. So this is great. A few days ago, Valley asked me she asked me to think about why I wrote this book. And when I did think about it, a few reasons came to mind. So I'll just share a bit of what I came up with. At different times in my life, it's been suggested to me that I could write a book, by my mom, by different people that I met along the way. And off and on I played with that idea, thinking, yeah, that'd be cool. But I always came back to the same thing. What would I write about? What do people write about? Would I write about me? That doesn't really inspire me so much. But after all, what about me could be interesting to other people? Then more recently, I was reminded by someone who has inspired me and who had read a gardening blog that I wrote back along the way who said, yes, you could write a book. You could do it. So I started to believe that I could. That, like it's been said, we all have a story to tell. And that's what brought us here now, this story. So one day, Frank brought home from the side of the road a gift. It was a little sign with an inscription, and it says, "The world is waiting to hear your story." And I looked at that tiny sign and I read the words, and I thought, the universe can be so persistent. So, in the spirit of the sign from the side of the road, I realized that after 20 odd years of looking after gardens, there were a few stories near and dear to my heart that I'd like to pass along. And so this book began. And it soon dawned on me that there was a big reason I wanted to write this book, and that's to pay forward something my mom gave me when she had Alzheimer's. Just a bit of wisdom that she brought out. She said to me years ago something that turned out to be paramount to where I find myself now. Her wisdom in that moment gave me the opportunity to take a good look at my life. I'd just graduated from university. I was a little bit unsure of where I would go. So I started to look at it, what's important to me, where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And heeding her words, I chose to move in the direction of a dream. And that choice brought me a life full of joy and contentment. So I'm here in part to pass on my mom's message to you. Her advice: it's important to do what's important to you. A message that definitely gives food for thought. And the beauty of this message is it isn't just for me, at least that's how I see it, although it was when she spoke it, but it's also a message for anyone and everyone. And it doesn't matter what you choose. For me, it was gardening. For you, it could be tinker, tailor, mother, father, environmentalist, healer, world leader. It just doesn't matter. Anything that you dream that you can do, you can. And ultimately, it's just whatever's right for each of us as individuals, and we're all different, right? So once we know that, we can follow the dream and see where it leads. So thanks, Mom. And now I'm just going to do a bit of the book. I'll just read a little from the book. How's it going? Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're going to start off with this. Oh, God. A daunting we will go. Oftentimes a garden can be daunting. You're looking out the kitchen window and it just seems to need so much work to manifest your beautiful garden vision. And no bones about it, it is work to create and maintain a garden. But you could look at it as playtime. You could go outside and start looking around, really looking, and soon there's so much there to attract your interest. Every time you go out, you see more and more of it. Eventually, as you come to know your garden, it becomes a joyous place to spend time. A beautiful, quiet place that encompasses you. It becomes your place, a place that gives you so much in return for what you give into it. And before you know it, the garden begins changing you. So if you want to garden, and if the space is a bit overwhelming, in size or in amount of work, just take a deep breath. Gather your tools. Choose one small area and head over there. Weed and snip and clean and rake for 20 minutes, and then step back. Look at what you've done and smile. Be happy with what you've started. See the difference you've made in such a short amount of time. Realize that if you go to your garden once a day and do one small project for 20 minutes or half an hour, and then sit back and see what you've done, soon the amount of time you spend will fade. Fade into the enjoyment of simply being in your garden playing. Okay. All right. This is just a... I hope this doesn't take too long. I hope that, yeah, anyway. Okay, thanks. This is what we entitled maintenance gardening. When you're a committed gardener and you tell people what you do, they expect you to know answers to questions of every size, shape, and color. And when you don't, they can become upset and cry, "But you said you were a gardener." Herein lies the dilemma. I once saw a cartoon of a woman dressed like a cleaning woman with an apron over her clothing and a dust mop hat. She was standing, rake in hand, saying, "Gardening is just like doing housework, but outside." This is an apt definition for a maintenance gardener. The dictionary defines grooming as to give a neat appearance to a person, etc. Gardens are an aspect of the etc. As a maintenance gardener, you could do whatever is necessary. You do whatever is necessary to keep the garden neat and tidy. While you're moving around, you get to know the garden. You start to notice details, the design of the beds, the plantings within the beds, and plants themselves. The more familiar you become, the more you interact with the plants and discover what's needed to keep them happy and healthy. Maintaining a garden brings out its definition. By removing weeds and debris, the plants under your stewardship have a place to shine and show themselves off. As I pass by, the fragrance of the waning viburnum entices me to come closer, even though many of its flowers have been in bloom for weeks and are now hanging in a mixture of decomposing clusters. A few fresh ones are just starting, and some are not quite open. This miraculous performance has been going on since November, along with 2 earlier hellebores whose cousins and siblings are soon to follow. Working more with each plant, I learn about timing and how energy flows from seed to fully matured plant, about how when the time is right and the beds have been properly prepared, a seed breaks open and begins the process of releasing the energy contained within it, coming up through the surface of the earth. As Phil always told me, it's then up to us as gardeners to give that seed, that plant, the best we have to offer it for it to grow and reproduce successfully. This is where the benefits of peering kick in. I'm standing where rhododendrons grow, waiting for inspiration about grooming. Not long ago, I mulched them with cedar and fir needles that land around them during autumn and winter winds. Rhoders and ferns both like acidity, so it's a good way to use this debris. Over time, birds spread the needles everywhere, covering the primula, which are just starting to show their brilliant purple flower buds. The ones under the rhodos are a bit too close to the mulch, so that goes on my to-do list. Move them a little further out. From there, I wander into the back part of the garden where the narcissus are starting to show color, and the alliums are coming up through the fresh mulch of steer manure I laid down about a week ago. For fun and a bit of decor, I gathered a few stones and made 2 Inukshuk-like creatures to place in the garden beds. As I was heading off to pick up, come on in. As I was heading off to pick up a bucket of honey that Nora brought me from a local beekeeping course, my eye was drawn to the early snow crocuses that grow near our gate. Some of the lovely bright purple stems had fallen over as their blooms finished and were dying back. By nipping off these fallen stems, I redirected the energy back to the bulb where it will be put to work. The other day there was a terrific windstorm, so today I took some time to check for down branches or possible damage. Sometimes a large fir branch falls across a bed, squashing stems and flowers. The sooner I get there and move that branch, the easier it is for the plant to recover. It's the small acts a gardener performs that guarantees a garden's health and happiness. Being in the garden is my inspiration. In a matter of 20 minutes, I can clean up an area, notice primula blooming, check out new blooms, and play with some rocks. Taking time to peer, stop, and do. Plants are living beings that give us pleasure in the form of beauty and nourishment. The point of going out there is to be with them. In a garden, it's up to us to take responsibility for their well-being so they can be healthy and attract the pollinators they need to carry on. Their primary mission is, after all, to reproduce. Some plants are vigorous growers and become invasive if they aren't trimmed back or thinned, taking over the yard and smothering other plantings. Others are prolific self-seeders and, if not kept in check, start sprouting up where you don't want them. So we cut back flower stalks before they go to seed. If we want a plant to bush out to give us more flowers, or a vine to give more fruit, we pinch out growing tips and thin out branches. Pruning makes space for airflow and rejuvenation. Removing dead, dying, and diseased bits eliminates additional disease, encouraging the plant to grow and shine. Any bug or slug or other unwanted critter can be flicked off, squished underfoot, or taken to the back 40. We may have to do these tasks over and over, but that's why we're out there. And one more little bit here. It's getting easier. Grapple. Sometimes I grapple with the idea of cleaning garden beds, excessively picking away to remove what I deem to be unnecessary bits of them. Why not let nature take its course? Why not just let the plants die back and not clean up the debris? Why not just get up, walk away, and go do something else? Well, that just wouldn't work for me. You see, I'm a maintenance gardener, plain and simple. And as soon as I step into any space created as a garden, I respond to the plants. I move in and I do what I can to keep everyone healthy and happy, which requires maintaining the flow of that plant's energy. Snipping, pruning, thinning, feeding, mulching, generally looking out for the overall well-being of the garden while it's in my care. So I could just get up and walk away, let the garden become overgrown and naturalized, but then why have a garden? Why create a space of beauty, tranquility, and vibrant energy if there's no one to keep it that way? Thus, this maintenance gardener was born.